Picture this as you're going through about your daily life, expecting nothing out of the ordinary, just nonchalantly going through every second, every minute, every hour. But then,
he just disappeared, wiped off from existence.
Such thought is quite unsettling, bizarre, far-fetched even. But believe it or not, as history recounts, there are recorded cases of such event happening. And tonight, we'll delve into a single case that has been baffling investigators for over half a century. And that is with the case of the disappearance of James E. Tedford. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jade, and this is Dive Deep, where we explore the unknown and beyond.
The year was 1949. Winter was particularly unforgiving in this time of year, especially in the city of St. Albans, Vermont. Other than that, life for the general public went on as usual. This ordinariness manifested as flocks of people piled into a public bus. On board, the bus was nearly filled with passengers, one of them being a man named James E. Tedford. Tedford would go on this 8-hour trip very often because as a World War II veteran, he resided in the Bennington Soldiers' Home at the time, and he'd often visit his relatives back at St. Albans. This trip, however, proved to be different, as the snow began to pile higher and higher, effectively delaying his trip by hours. Tedford, understandably, then dozed off, and by the last remaining stretch of his journey back to Bennington, he was completely asleep. He remained asleep as the bus stopped for its final station before Bennington. Closing the doors, the bus proceeded to continue on to its final destination, Bennington. The bus arrived as expected, but Tedford didn't. As the bus neared Bennington, some passengers noticed that Tedford's seat was empty. In fact, he was nowhere to be seen. His luggage, though, was still in the overhead luggage rack, and his bus timetable was lying open in his seat, where he was just sleeping moments ago.
Now you might think that he may just have got off the bus somewhere between the stop before Bennington and the final destination in Bennington. It just happened that he forgot to bring with him his things.
But the issue was that there was no stop made between those two stations. The 14 passengers present on that commute to Bennington, along with the bus driver, confirmed to the authorities that Tedford was still on board during the ride, sleeping soundly in his seat. But when they arrived, Tedford was nowhere to be found.
So while the bus was moving along its final route to reach Bennington, Tedford seemingly vanished into thin air.
But how could that be? The bus never made any stops on the last route to Bennington, nor was there any possible way he could have left without a trace. Tedford never came back to claim his belongings, nor was he heard from ever again, despite of investigations and an extensive search being conducted by the authorities.
Tedford's disappearance certainly is a testament of how our reality can be so mysterious and outright cruel sometimes. I mean, how does one just disappear from a moving public bus just like that? How can someone just vanish before someone's own eyes? Unfortunately, we may never know the truth due to the outright bizarre and mysterious nature of this disappearance. However, what we can do is come up with possible theories as to how this one man could have just disappeared in a moving public bus. Let's get into them.
To start off, we have a theory that just sounds downright outlandish, but might just convince you otherwise as we delve deeper into it. Theory number 1, supernatural intervention.
Quite silly, isn't it?
But let's just consider it for a moment. It may just explain the bizarre circumstances surrounding this disappearance. As to why this theory is considered, the very area that the route's located in is a particular hotspot for UFO sightings, with hundreds of reported sightings in just the span of a year in that area alone. Alongside with that, locals are even convinced that the wooded area surrounding that route is filled with forces that are beyond this world, much like that of the forces behind the disappearances on the Bermuda Triangle.
Now, personally, I think that this is an interesting theory. The idea of supernatural forces being at work in our own reality is quite intriguing. However, it's way too outlandish to possibly be the case right here. I mean, just considering of the possibility that this was caused by forces beyond our human comprehension doesn't sit well with me, honestly.
Considering this, let's look at a more grounded logic theory. Theory number 2, mistaken for another man. It's possible that the passengers and the bus driver confused Tedford for another elderly man, and he just got off the bus at the stop just before the final stop at Bennington. As to why, he may have decided to just disappear forever. There's a high possibility that he would do so as a result of a post-traumatic stress disorder he could have developed after the war, and the depression he developed when his wife Pearl left her completely without even saying a thing to him. Maybe he had enough of life and decided to just run away, leaving all of his things behind, never to be seen again.
That said, we may never know the truth behind that fateful day. That day when a war veteran in his 60s seemingly vanished into thin air. His story is a reminder of how life is full of mysterious circumstances and how it keeps those as secrets. Secrets that may or may not be revealed in our lifetime. And no matter how much effort we put into solving them, only time will tell, if we will. This is Jade, and you're watching Dive Deep, where we explore the unknown and beyond. Good night.